here on the Steve Alstrom Show, and I am pleased to welcome to the program a gentleman that we have not had on the program before, but we're fixing that today. Joining us here is Josh Meyer. He's the Tax and Fiscal Policy Task Force Director for the American Legislative Exchange Council. Good afternoon, Josh. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thanks for doing it. So you all have come up with a way to analyze the different states in the country and rank them in terms of their economic outlook. Tell us more.
That's right, Steve. So this report called Rich States, Poor States starts from a fairly simple observation about the United States that people and businesses in our modern world can move around the country fairly easily. And so we look at what the various states are doing in public policy to make their states an appealing place for businesses and individuals to locate and work.
Okay, so you ranked all 50 states. What were the criteria that you used in trying to come up with this economic outlook score?
Taxes play a big role in it, Steve, but we also look at labor policy and regulatory policies.
Okay, so the less regulations, the better. The lower the taxes, the better. Sounds like our kind of group. And I know that you have done some work with Art Laffer, who is kind of one of, I wouldn't say one of my heroes, but one of the guys who I really look up to in terms of discussing economics in a way that most of us can understand it. Stephen Moore is also kind of part of the study that you guys did. So I know you keep good company there at the ALEC, so this is great to hear. Tell us a little bit. So we live in an area where our listeners are generally Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota. Tell us how those states did in these rankings.
Well, North Dakota, Steve, you'll perhaps be happy to hear, ranked 5th in this latest 2025 rankings. North Dakota has consistently been among the top states. It is one of these states that does well across a range of policies. Among them, that of the states with an income tax, it is tied with Arizona for having the lowest rate at 2.5%. South Dakota, another state that competes really closely with North Dakota most years. And in the past, we've seen South Dakota ahead of North Dakota in the rankings, but not so this year. South Dakota does better on the part of our rankings that look at income taxes, but North Dakota does better on a lot of the other regulatory and labor policies that we look at.
Yeah.
Minnesota, on the opposite end, is consistently a bottom 10 state, coming 41st in this latest report.
Not too much of a surprise, those of us that know both states well. North Dakota in your scoring rates really well for average workers' comp costs, right-to-work state liability system costs. We rank number 1 in the country in all of those things, the way inheritance and estate taxes are levied. So a lot of good things about North Dakota. And we had a lot of friends, a lot of listeners in Minnesota, but it's a tough state to do business in. It's a punitive tax state. We know that. There's a lot of regulation there, and it's just more complicated to get things done and save your money in Minnesota. It just is because there's a lot of headwinds as well. And I guess good to know that our neighbors to the south, South Dakota, is doing fairly well in this as well. Tell me a little bit about the sort of mindset that the states that rank top 5, if you could kind of just dumb it down to like the 5th grade level for us. What are these states doing right, the ones that rank in the top, and what are the ones in the bottom? And by the way, I did see in your rankings that, some of the usual suspects, Illinois, California, New Jersey, Vermont, New York, are your bottom 5 states. What are they not doing well in those bottom 5 states that the top 5 states are killing it on?
In the top states, one of the things we see is a commitment to always making policy better. One of the things we've learned over 18 years is a simple lesson that states can fall behind by standing still. We've seen states that think they've got it all figured out, rest on their laurels, and they fall behind in our rankings. North Dakota, South Dakota are some of the states that haven't fallen victim to that mindset, and that's kept both of them in the top 10. Utah, the state that has been number 1 for 18 years in a row, has certainly kept that mindset. They're always looking for ways in Utah to make that state a more competitive place for workers and businesses. The bottom end of the rankings, on the flip side, you see a lot of states that think they can tax their way into prosperity. they raise taxes, and more people leave the state, and so they have less money. And then they raise taxes again, and more people leave. And you see how this leads to a cycle where millions and millions of people are leaving Illinois, California, New York, and they're moving to places like Utah, Florida, Texas, these top states that recognize you cannot tax your way into prosperity.
Yeah, good points and good comments there. I did see in your notes that New York finished dead last for the 12th straight year. What is it about New York that makes them score so low on these rankings consistently, year after year?
Well, Steve, we were talking with some folks in New York, which is ranked at the bottom for 16 out of 18 years we've been doing this. And one thing they asked in New York, they said, what's something we can do to make New York a more competitive place? And the answer to that is there is no one thing. New York does badly across every variable. They have high property taxes, high income taxes, high business taxes. They have a labor environment that makes it hard to hire workers. They have a regulatory environment that kills small business. So there's no one thing that's holding New York back. It's this consistent commitment to tax every activity that people do and to regulate businesses out of the state.
Yeah, I think it's a really good conversation. I did see also in your study notes that California and New York, I was reminded in your notes that those two states have lost more than 4.2 million residents over the last decade. So there's a lot of people that have left those states because of that and have gone to places like Texas and Florida and the Dakotas as well to kind of get something else going. I have to ask you, and I don't know how much you in particular, Josh, have studied North Dakota and what we do up here, but you're talking about this tremendous, foundation for economic growth. It's just there are things we do here in North Dakota and South Dakota that just keep government out of the way so businesses can get started and grow and develop. And on top of all of that, all of these underpinnings that we just were talking about, you have this massive energy play up here that allows us to basically add, jet fuel to the gas tank of all these things happening. And Kevin O'Leary has been up here a lot in the last couple of years, the Shark Tank guy, and he keeps talking about you people in North Dakota don't realize what you have here. You have an unfair advantage with all of this energy in this great regulatory environment, low taxes, the government stays out of your hair, and when these Amazons and Microsofts and Googles want to make these big data centers, they're going to look to bring these AI super brains to North Dakota to figure out how do we do it here, because we've got the energy, we got cool air that can help cool off these machines. Just open up the windows, right, and let the cool air in, and you've got this remarkable set of ingredients, and if mixed right, North Dakota, in Kevin O'Leary's terms, could be the next Norway, the richest state in the country per capita. If you do this right, if you harness energy and put it on top of all these great fundamental pieces that you were just talking about, man, the future seems bright for this state.
It is, and that's why we've put North Dakota in the top 5 in this year's rankings. It's a state that has done modestly well over the last couple decades, and our report is meant to be somewhat forward-looking. And when we say number 5, that's meant to say that North Dakota does have a bright future ahead of it. Growth coming North Dakota's way, people leaving California, New York, Illinois, Minnesota, moving to North Dakota for the great energy policy, the great regulatory policy, and the great tax policy.
Before I let you go, I've got to ask you about the other set of data points you have in your study, and that's the economic performance rank, and we don't score very well in this one. You have North Dakota ranked 45th in the country for economic performance. Tell us a little bit about that.
So we have these two components, the outlook and the performance. Performance is meant to be backward-looking, and outlook is forward-looking. So when we say number 5, we think North Dakota's got a bright future. And when we say 45, we think North Dakota has not done so great historically. It's because North Dakota's a smaller state. That holds back some of its economic growth variables. But we've seen, especially since the COVID-19 pandemic, that trend is starting to reverse. North Dakota's economy has been picking up. The work from home revolution has led a lot more Americans to reconsider where they're living and a lot of businesses to reconsider where they're locating. And that's what gets North Dakota to number 5 in that Outlook ranking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's ways to go for sure. Things can be better. But I think you're right. Your data goes back about 10 years on that kind of looking in the rearview mirror piece of it. So things we can do better, but certainly it's a good place to be. And if you could buy stock in a state, this wouldn't be a bad one to buy a little stock in. Josh, I appreciate you taking the time. Great to meet you. Thanks for sharing some of the details here. And it's great to know that our state is catching people's attention as far as being a great place to do business. We appreciate your time today.
Thanks for having me, Steve.